Welcome to The Debate, Unseen Currents, Breaking the Cycle of Unease. Today, we analyze the ideas from the book The Unseen Chains.
And I have to say that's a heavy title. It feels like it promises a lot.
It does, but I think it delivers. It delivers on a premise that is hauntingly familiar to a lot of us. The author, Angel Gabriel, he identifies this phenomenon that he calls cozy horror. Now, don't think of like a scary movie. This is more the specific, low-grade hum of unease you feel in places that are supposed to be your sanctuary, you know? It's the silence at the dinner table that feels louder than a scream. It's that feeling of walking on eggshells in your own living room, just waiting for a shoe to drop that you can't even see.
Okay, that's a visceral image. I will grant you that. We've all felt that kind of tension where the whole atmosphere in a room just shifts without a word being spoken. But my role here today is to really question the cost of the solution that's being proposed. The book claims this unease isn't just a mood or, a bad Tuesday. It says this is a signal of unseen chains, these psychological traps, both internal and external, that we're caught in without even knowing it.
Exactly. And my position today is that the framework in The Unseen Chains, specifically this rigorous self-audit and the boundary setting, is not just helpful, it is a necessary intervention. We're talking about reclaiming your life from a kind of psychological suffocation. If we don't identify these chains, we stay in what the book calls the comforting cage. We're safe, technically, but we just atrophy.
And I'm coming at it from a different way. While I appreciate the diagnosis, we all feel that hum of anxiety, I am deeply skeptical of the cure. The book prescribes a level of forensic hypervigilance that I believe carries this massive hidden cost. So my argument is that when you start analyzing every sigh, every silence, every thought for some hidden meaning, you aren't building freedom. You're building a paranoia loop. You risk pathologizing the normal friction of being human and turning your life into a sterile laboratory of safety.
I think you're mistaking awareness for paranoia, but let's establish the baseline first before we argue the method. The foundational argument here is that most of us, we just ignore our inner sanctuary's warning signals. We feel a knot in our stomach when a partner makes a joke at our expense, but we dismiss it. We tell ourselves, oh, we're being dramatic. The position I'm advocating for, and the book's core thesis, is that we have to treat that knot in the stomach as valid data. We have to stop gaslighting ourselves into compliance.
But data is useless without accurate interpretation, isn't it? If I feel a knot in my stomach, is it because my partner is some covert manipulator trying to erode my self-esteem? Or is it because I'm tired, I'm projecting my own insecurity from a past relationship, and I just need a sandwich? The book tells us to deconstruct the unreliable narrator of the mind, but then it also tells us to trust our gut. You can't really have it both ways. If my mind is an unreliable narrator, why on earth should I trust its reaction to a joke?
See, that's a fundamental misunderstanding of the tool. We aren't trusting the story the mind tells. We are trusting the somatic signal. The body doesn't lie, the mind does. The book introduces this concept of the unseen architect. And this isn't some mystical spirit. It's the part of our brain, evolutionarily designed for survival, not happiness, that drafts these faulty blueprints based on past fears. It uses cognitive distortions like catastrophizing or black and white thinking to keep us in that comforting cage.
Okay, let's dig into that, this unseen architect, because this is really our first major point of contention, the internal audit, the idea that there's a saboteur inside our own heads.
Not a saboteur, a misguided protector. The proposal is that our mind is constantly filtering reality through these distortions. Take the availability heuristic that's mentioned in Chapter 3. We overestimate threats because they're vivid in our memory. If you were yelled at once in public for a small mistake 5 years ago, your unseen architect builds a massive wall. Never speak up in a meeting again or you will be destroyed. So to counter this, Gabriel proposes a very specific, very rigorous regimen, the small pause.
The small pause, okay.
Taking 3 deep breaths before every reaction.
Yes.
It sounds almost trivial, I know, but the physiological impact is profound.
It sounds exhausting. I really want to look at the practicality of this. 3 deep breaths before every reaction. I mean, have you tried to do that in real life? In a high-pressure meeting, or when your toddler is painting the dog with spaghetti sauce? If I pause to breathe 3 times, the moment is gone. But more importantly, I worry about the psychological implication of this constant monitoring.
What implication? It's just mindfulness.
It's more than mindfulness, it's self-policing. If I'm constantly journaling my unease and labeling my own thoughts as distortions, I am essentially putting my mind on trial 24/7. Wait, is this personalization? Is this my unseen architect acting up? It feels like we are creating a split self, the criminal thinker and the police officer observer. If I can't trust my immediate perception because of biases, I become paralyzed. I stop living, and I just start analyzing.
But I'd argue you're already paralyzed. You just don't realize it because you're running on autopilot. The small pause, it isn't about being zen or passive. It's a circuit breaker. The book explains the neuroscience behind it. It's about engaging the prefrontal cortex, the logic center, so you aren't hijacked by the amygdala, the fear center. The unseen architect works in the amygdala. It screams fire when someone just lit a candle. The pause lets you see the candle for what it is.
I accept the neuroscience. We should all breathe more, sure. But look at the self-assessment tools provided alongside this. We're asked to score ourselves on things like dismissing feelings of discomfort. If I score high, the book says I'm in danger of self-abandonment. But maybe I dismiss discomfort because discomfort is part of being an adult. Life is uncomfortable. Growth is uncomfortable. If I treat every single moment of friction as a signal that needs to be journaled and deconstructed, I become fragile. I lose the callus that lets me function in a tough world.
See, I think that's the comforting cage talking. We equate enduring unnecessary pain with strength. And the book challenges that. It asks, why are you enduring it? Are you enduring it because it serves a purpose or because you believe you don't deserve better? By auditing these thoughts, by catching yourself catastrophizing that a missed email means you're incompetent, you actually build resilience. You stop reacting to ghosts.
Reacting to ghosts is one thing, but the book also encourages us to hunt for ghosts in the real world, in the people around us. And this leads us, inevitably, to the external world and the very controversial concepts of small t trauma and gaslighting.
And this is, in my opinion, the most transformative part of the text. Gabriel distinguishes between big T trauma, so war, disasters, physical abuse, and small t trauma, things like chronic criticism, emotional neglect, unspoken family rules, or having to parent your own parents. The argument is that these cumulative wounds are dangerous precisely because they are normalized. We don't think they count, so we never heal them. We just live with the hum.
And here's where I have my strongest reservation. I really worry about the dilution of the word trauma. In the case study of Eleanor, she felt these unspoken expectations from her parents. They never yelled, they were supportive, but they had these unfulfilled dreams that she felt all this pressure to fix. The book labels this small t trauma.
And it was. It shaped her entire nervous system. She couldn't relax.
But if unspoken expectations are trauma, then parenting is trauma. Living in a society is trauma. If we label everyday disappointment or the pressure to succeed or a critical remark as trauma, we lose the ability to distinguish between life is hard and I am a victim. It creates a framework where everyone is damaged and everyone is a perpetrator.
I think you're minimizing the cumulative effect. A single drop of water isn't a threat, but a million drops, that's a flood. The unspoken expectations in Eleanor's case created a comforting cage of just suffocating striving. She sabotaged her own success because of a blueprint she inherited. The argument isn't that her parents were villains, it's that the impact on her was real. The body doesn't know the difference between a tiger in the room and the chronic fear of disappointing your mother. The cortisol spike is the same.
The cortisol might be the same, but the moral culpability is different, and this leads right to the gaslit glow. The book encourages us to identify manipulation in our relationships. You're too sensitive. I never said that. Yes, of course, those are gaslighting phrases. But the book seems to suggest that any denial of your reality is gaslighting. Memory is fallible for everyone.
If my partner says I didn't say it that way, and I immediately say, you're gaslighting me, then it's out the window. We have destroyed the possibility of trust. We are now enemies fighting over a transcript of reality that doesn't even exist.
Well, that's a slippery slope argument. The book is very specific about the gaslit glow. It's not about a memory lapse. It's about a pattern of eroding someone's confidence in their own senses. When someone consistently denies events that undeniably happened to maintain control, that is not a disagreement. That is a strategy. And the small t trauma concept is vital because it validates the experience of people who feel like they're going crazy. They feel unsafe but have nothing terrible to point to. Naming it small t trauma stops them from gaslighting themselves.
Or it gives them a weapon to use against their families. You gave me small t trauma because you wanted me to be a doctor. It feels like we are forensic accountants of our own childhoods, looking for someone to bill for our anxiety.
We aren't billing them. The text explicitly states, acknowledging these generational echoes is not about blame, but about understanding the blueprint. You can't remodel a house if you don't know where the load-bearing walls are. You have to open up the drywall.
Fair enough. So let's assume we've done the audit. We found the unseen architect. We identified the small t trauma. Now we need a solution. The book proposes building a sanctuary.
Reclaiming the narrative. And this involves assertiveness, using I statements, and building a sanctuary through boundaries. This includes decluttering both digital and physical spaces and, crucially, evaluating your relationships.
Decluttering relationships. I'm sorry, that is the phrase that just sticks in my throat. It sounds so clinical. Does this friend spark joy? No? Toss him out.
That's a reductionist take on it. It's not about sparking joy, it's about safety.
But listen to the method. The book talks about cutting off draining people or using these strict boundaries. I will not discuss this when you raise your voice. I remember it differently. It suggests we treat our social circle like a closet. But life requires dealing with difficult people. We can't just unsubscribe from a mother-in-law or a difficult boss like we do a newsletter.
Actually, you can unsubscribe from the drama, even if you don't unsubscribe from the person. The book argues that boundaries are not walls. They are lines of definition. You cannot have a healthy relationship if you don't know where you end and the other person begins. The sanctuary isn't a bunker. The text calls it a launch pad. By decluttering the physical space, which creates mental bandwidth, and setting limits on emotional blackmail, you aren't isolating, you are curating.
Curating a life assumes a level of control that might just be an illusion. The book suggests we digitally declutter and physically declutter because if your environment is chaotic, your mind will be too. Okay, sure, clean your room. That's good advice. But the jump from clean your room to curate your social circle to avoid anyone who triggers your unease is a jump toward fragility. If I never encounter resistance, if I never have to deal with a difficult aunt or a messy friend, I never grow. I just sit in my clean room, breathing deeply, completely alone.
I have to differ on that point. The material isn't suggesting we avoid all resistance. It's suggesting we stop accepting toxicity as normal. I mean, look at the assertiveness chart in the book. It seeks the middle path between passive and aggressive. Most people living in cozy horror are in that passive zone. My needs don't matter. The book pushes them to say, my needs matter, and so do yours. That creates better conflict, not less conflict. It moves the conflict from covert manipulation to overt negotiation.
Overt negotiation is great in a boardroom, but let's look at the boundary type examples. One of the scripts is, I love you, but I only have 15 minutes right now. If a friend calls me in crisis, sobbing, and I hit him with, I love you, but I have 15 minutes, it feels cold. It feels like I'm prioritizing my sanctuary over our shared humanity. It feels robotic. It sounds like therapy speak, invading intimacy.
I see why you feel that way, but let me offer you a different perspective. Is it colder to say I have 15 minutes and really mean it? Or to listen for an hour while secretly checking your watch, rolling your eyes, and resenting them? The view I'm advocating is that the unseen chains of obligation are what drain us. We listen for an hour, but for 45 minutes of it, we are resentful. That resentment is the unseen chain. By setting the boundary, you are actually being more honest. You are giving them 15 minutes of true presence rather than an hour of fake patience.
I hear that logic, but I come at it from a different angle. I think that resentment, or at least that endurance, is sometimes the price of love. We carry each other's burdens. If we all become sanctuary architects, guarding our energy like dragons guarding gold, where's the community? Where's the messiness of, I'm tired, but I'll stay up with you anyway?
The community is there, but it's a community of peers, not a community of hostages. The book wants us to move from passive recipient to active architect. It's about values-aligned action. You can choose to stay up all night, but it has to be a choice, not a compulsion driven by the fear of disappointing someone.
That distinction, choice versus compulsion, is valid. I'll give you that. But my fear remains that for many people, the sanctuary becomes the destination. The focus on self-assessment, sanctuary audit, reaction log, it's a lot of self-focus. It risks turning the user into a narcissist in the name of healing. We become so obsessed with our own internal weather that we forget to look out the window.
I'd strongly disagree. The unseen chains bind us in self-doubt and fear. When you are in the comforting cage, you are actually incredibly self-obsessed because you are constantly monitoring your own safety. Did I say the wrong thing? Do they hate me? Am I safe? Breaking those chains releases us. It frees up the bandwidth to be more available to others because we aren't consumed by that low-grade hum of anxiety. Clarity allows for true connection.
I suppose it depends on how you use the tool. A hammer can build a house or break a window.
Precisely, and this book is providing a very specific set of hammers and chisels. It's not asking you to break the window, it's asking you to see if the window is actually a painting of a window that someone hung up to trick you.
That's a fair metaphor. So, as we wrap this up, let's look at where we landed.
So, to summarize my position, we are living in an era of high anxiety, and much of it is self-generated by these unseen chains. And while the methods in the unseen chains, the small pause, the journaling, the strict boundaries, they require significant work, the cost of inaction is higher. That low-grade hum is a signal, I believe, that rigorous self-audit is a must-try. You cannot fix what you cannot see, and this book gives you the goggles to see it.
And to summarize my view, while the diagnostic tools are fascinating, particularly the concepts of the unseen architect in cozy horror, the cure, I think, creates its own disease. So I advise caution. Use the tools to spot patterns, absolutely. But don't let the search for hidden traps become a new source of anxiety. Life is messy, memory is imperfect, and sometimes a knot in the stomach is just a knot in the stomach. Don't dismantle your entire house just because the floorboards creak.
That's a valid caution, but I think we both agree that the unseen chains forces a necessary confrontation. It names a ghost that haunts many of us.
It does. It forces you to look at the wallpaper of your life and ask if it's actually holding the walls up or if it's a cage. Even if I disagree with the intensity of the solution, the question itself is valuable.
And that is where we leave you today. We encourage you to look at your own unseen chains. Are you in a comforting cage? And if you are you ready to dismantle it?
Just remember to take a breath, maybe 3, before you start tearing down the walls.
Thanks for listening to The Debate.